Lost my heart and lost my soul. Last time that lost my mind and lost my soul. Not giving in. I'm not giving in. I'm not giving in. Waste my time, which makes things worse. Lost in my love is cursed. Time to make these things better.
Technical official team responsibilities. You may remember from an earlier video that all technical officials, while they can carry out multiple tasks at an event, generally every race will have two officials. One would be the technical delegate and the other would be the race referee. The technical delegate is the most senior official on the team, and it's the person that liaises with the race director before and during the event to make sure it's safe and fair. The race referee generally doesn't need to be too involved before the race as much, but is the person who monitors the fairness of the event, advises of any rule changes, and gives the briefing. So, what should be done before an event? The race organisers will need to submit a race safety plan, and when this comes into TI, the technical delegate that is assigned to the event will get a copy of this and will be introduced to the race director. Now, this is a really important point because it's as a technical official or a technical delegate, it's good to build up a rapport and relationship with the race director. And that means pick up the phone, getting in contact, getting to know them, you talk through the race plan, you review any comments from the previous years, you do a site visit or two if possible. And basically it's really important that you have a good relationship with the race director. Some of the things that you'll look at will be the timetable, the briefing event, how many competitors, the number of waves, safety issues, marshals, and information on the course and communications. So there's a lot there, and it should take a lot of interaction between you and the race director. Where issues arise is if a technical delegate or a race director don't interact with each other before the event, and the technical delegate arrives down with very little knowledge of the race and hasn't been involved in planning. This is why race directors make good technical officials, because they understand the flow and the timing of an event from early morning until the end. What is going to happen at this time? And knowing that is really, really important. And if you're an official who hasn't had much race organizer experience, it's definitely recommended that you try and do so, because it will definitely help in your role. From a race director's perspective, there's nothing worse than having a technical delegate who's got very little race experience. They may be an official for a number of years, but that can be a hard situation to deal with if you are not experienced enough in this area. Another aspect of the role is the amount of paperwork that's generated. The event management plan, as I explained, is the plan that gets sent in by the race director into TI. Now, experienced race directors will have an awful lot of information in there. Watch out for copy and paste syndrome, which is people submitting the same document they did previously without changing the dates. So it is important that you check all this and you try and get your head into the event management plan. The other piece of paperwork that's really important is the permit, and this is the last piece of paper that's signed off between the TD and the race organizer before the start of the race to say that TI is officially sanctioning this race and it provides insurance cover. So you need to be very happy that the race organizer is doing everything they can to make it a safe, fair race. Because at the end of the day, we are taking responsibility for these events. There's sanctioning notices and appeal forms, which are to do with the rules. So, TO responsibilities. As I said, you meet up with the event organizer and safety officer. Obviously, looking at who is the safety support team. Are the Order of Malta there? How many? What's the medical cover? What's the water cover? I've said that before. Who's managing the water? And what interaction is taking place with the guards if there's closed roads, or knowing what the race organizer, how the race organizers interacted with all these various other agencies is also very, very important. On the day of the race, you'll deploy a team if there's a big gang of you. If it's just two of you, well, you'll split the role. Obviously, the TD will have already been in contact with the race organizer, and then the referee will take the role. The other official will take the role as race referee. You'll discuss with any team members that come down on the day of the race. Generally, these officials may have only been appointed that week, so it's important you understand this event well in order to be able to allocate them positions. Now, what you actually happen on the day can very much depend on the implementation of the plan. It's all well and good having a race management plan, and it all looks good on paper. When you get down, you have half the volunteers haven't showed up because of the weather, or the barriers at a certain roundabout aren't there, and there'll be lots of things that will crop up that may cause for concern. And in that case, officials may be there to try and secure the event. But by and large, the objective is to monitor the rules, apply the penalties, and ensure the penalties are displayed correctly and applied correctly. On the race day, make sure you arrive in plenty of time. This is really important. Again, race directors, depending on the start time, are probably up in the middle of the night looking to get the race set up. So knowing where they expect to be at certain times is important. So it might be wise to ask, when do you expect the course to be locked down? What time are your volunteers coming on site? And all of these things can help you make a decision around how organised the event might be. You meet the officials at agreed location and let the event organiser know you're all present. Now, race organisers, depending on the day, can be very hard people to pin down, and you're generally the last person they want to see. So it's important that you do make a concerted effort to have a bit of time together, and you ensure that this time is very important, because oftentimes you may not get a chance except before the start, where you're signing off on the permit, to talk to them. You check transition is safe and that it's fair. You make sure the infringement recording sheets are available to the whole team, that everybody has pens, reporting protocols, radios and phones if necessary. You ensure that the registration and one-day license membership checks are in place. You ensure all officials and motorbike officials have your number and event emergency contact. You agree with the motorbike officials how they are to be deployed and how they will report. Very important that the timing company is in place and that they know what they're doing, and knowing how many mats there are, where they are, and all those sorts of things is going to be really important. You attend the pre-race briefing and the referee will brief as required on the rules. The race director will brief on the event itself, but the referee will brief on the rules. So, the basic stuff. Yeah, drafting rules, behaviour in transition area, mount, dismount line, all that kind of stuff. And then you decide your position to monitor the race. This can be a moving feast depending on where this event is at. Health and safety is really important. It's our primary responsibility as TOs. So there are a number of health and safety guidelines, but none are sport specific. But generally speaking, a common sense approach is generally adequate. No race is perfect. You have to assess and try and assess what could possibly go wrong and how able is this organisation to respond to any difficulties. How able are their partners to respond if there's any difficulties. But I wouldn't get bogged down on little details and small things. You have to think of the big picture. So, the race has started. What do you do? Well, as I said earlier on, you should avoid marshalling the event unless safety is breached. But this is something you could end up doing, particularly around areas where spectators might bleed onto the course, where there isn't enough control at crossing points in dangerous locations, and anywhere where athletes aren't paying attention, mount, dismount lines, coming out of water, and running in areas where there's no crowd control. You may end up marshalling these. It's always good to have backup equipment with you. I like to have lots of extra tape, and if you have some cones, if you have things that you can control the field of play, is really, really useful. You inform the event organizer, safety officer of any problems. Now this obviously is a delicate one depending on the nature of the problem. Everybody gets very stressed out on race day, so this is where your relationship with the race director comes into play when you notice something that's of significant concern. The last thing you want to be doing is saying, I'm cancelling this race if you don't do that, I'm cancelling this race. That's red rag to a bull on race day. You need to be measured in your approach. Try and solve problems. That's what you're there for. You're there not just to officiate the rules, but you're there to help solve problems. And be prepared to intervene and stop the race if a competitor safety is compromised. This is something technical officials, particularly inexperienced ones, feel most difficult. And even more experienced technical delegates also will struggle when it comes to this, because no one wants to stop a race. But there are times when you have to stop it. And if safety is compromised, then it's compromised. If it's in the water, you will get good feedback from the safety crew, the sub-aqua. They'll tell you if it's not safe. Listen to them. They're the experts on that. If you have significant amount of traffic on the road that shouldn't have been there, if roads aren't closed and they should have been, things like this are really, really important. And you do have the right to say, look, this isn't safe, I'm not signing it off. But don't use it as a threat. It has to be a realistic intervention. And generally speaking, nobody can complain about that. After the race, you need to confirm and post a penalty. So this would be the referee's job. The timing provider needs to be informed because they need to adjust the results. And then you remain until prize giving is complete. The results are signed off and sent back. You also need to be able to provide feedback when required. Having a debrief after the event is always a good idea with the officials and the race director if they're not too busy tidying everything up. But it's often a good thing to do. And then you complete and return your race report to the event organizer and TI. This is something you should try and get started on straight away while it's fresh in your mind. It's good to have a little notebook, small little notebook you can put in your back pocket, just to take notes of anything you see, because that'll help you frame your report.